àgbàrá òjò lówó nílé wo bí sọdún onílé ni ò ní gbà fún. Èé ti rí èé ti ṣe àkọ́kọ́ dáyé àṣebáyégún karìnrìn gbalaka sọ̀rọ̀ falala kò pẹ́ kò jìnnà wọn láti ń gbọ́n. Ṣé Fúlàní yóò wá borí wa ni? Àgbààgbà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ẹ dìde o. Ẹ̀yin Àgbẹ̀kọ̀yà ẹ dìde. Ogun Fúlàní ò gbọ́dọ̀ borí wa. Ta ni yóò padà táyé ṣe o?
Ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o? Tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé? Ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú aṣòro bí èwe.
Wọ́n ń bá wa nígbàkúgbà ẹ̀fọ̀wọ́lẹ́rán ẹ̀sìn ń wòran. Àbòdìgbà tí Fúlàní bá gbẹ̀mí gbogbo létán. Ọjọ́ ọ̀la wá sódìgbà tí wọ́n bá.
Right, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on where you are and where you are watching us. My own name is Samuel Oludare Jeroko. That's my name. And of course, today we will be talking about Nigeria securities, especially what has happened overnight at Igangan in the Ibarapa area of Oyo State. We'll be talking that alongside other topics regarding issues that are coming up in Nigeria. And of course, for those that have been following us, you know we will be having our usual guests. It comes around every two weeks to talk to us about Nigeria and of course about the Yoruba nation, the Yoruba people, and the pathway to Yoruba liberation in Nigeria. Is none other person than Mr. Femi Odedeyi from Yoruba Referendum Committee. You are welcome on the program, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome, sir.
Okay.
So we'll just hit the ground running.
Yes.
Now, I know we've spoken about this before, but as things are happening, it becomes necessary that we continue to bring them to the fore. And it's still the issue about security in Nigeria. There's basically no part of Nigeria today that we can excuse out of what is happening. We've seen insecurity in the north, we've seen it in the east, and we've seen it in the west and every other part of Nigeria. So first of all, I will take your views about what is happening at the moment and what they mean to a country like Nigeria at this time.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me very well now?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, right. Thank you, and I appreciate your efforts and all the efforts of every one of us that are concerned and trying to find a solution to these things. The first thing I would say is that the question of insecurity in Nigeria now cannot be divorced from the whole question of insecurity of the African continent, or let me say what they call the sub-Saharan Africa. Why is that so? If we just take since the 1980s, we have seen the rise of Islamic terrorism or jihadist forces from Algeria to Libya to Chad to Niger Republic and all the rest of it. So, and then when we now come to what they call sub-Saharan Africa, which is, you know, where we are, including the Central African Republic, Congo, that is Zaire, and West Africa. And then before then, we also remember the wars in Liberia and Sierra Leone. So everything is about the contest for the control of the post-colonial states. In other words, when we got our independence in whatever manner we got it, the question as to who is going to be in control was taken away from the peoples of those territories and invested in a particular formation. And that formation now tries to impose itself on the rest of the peoples, and then conflicts arise and insecurity. Let me use Liberia as an example. You know, when Samuel Doe took over, when he took over power in Liberia, the context was presented as what they call the Americo-Liberians, who had been ruling Liberia since Liberia became a country in 1847 or something like that, and the local people. So you have the so-called local people in Liberia fighting against what they call the Americo-Liberians. Will give you a snapshot of what I'm talking about, and the whole thing has now spread to nearly every other country. In Nigeria, in particular, we talk about Fulani this, Fulani that. I will come to the Igangan issue later. Fulani this, Fulani have done this, they have done that. The herdsmen have done this, have done that. In Guinea, when Sekou Touré was the prime minister of Guinea, you know, he led Guinea to independence in 1958 and died in 1984. The same Fulani people were seen as the enemy of the Malinke in Guinea, and every act of the state, that is what Sekou Touré was doing, was to contain the Fulani in Guinea. They call them the Pio in Guinea, to contain them so that they will not cause damage or cause havoc to Guinea. Of course, after he died in 1984, everything went haywire. Now, coming to Nigeria, the usual mantra is that a government to sustain its legitimacy must be able to maintain security. But they always forget that security is not an abstraction. Security is not just the existence of the army, the police, or the judiciary, as they call it. Security essentially means the ability of the people to live without fear. And if there is any problem, there should be a consequence to that problem. So security essentially means what we will now call self-determination of the people. That is what security is. The army and the police serve a purpose. If the army and the police and the DSS and all the rest of them appear helpless, it is only to us, the victims, that they appear helpless. It is not to the commanders and the operators and whoever is running them that they are not helpless, because they have a purpose for existence. They have a purpose for creating the Nigerian army. And if you look at the history of the Nigerian army, we can see a systematic way of making it to be the foundation for Nigeria. That was why when they took over power, they will destroy everything that they found on ground and corral everybody into their notion of what Nigeria is. And that is why we are where we are today. That when they left power, when they were forced to leave power in 1999, they just went and did some constitution and then called it a constitution, and everybody was living with it. Now, when these terrorists and what they call bandits and all the rest are coming around, and the regime, the Buhari regime, succeeded in changing the narrative from either Fulani herdsmen or this and that to bandits and terrorists and all that. And again, bringing this guy who calls himself Sheikh Gumi who once said that banditry is not something, and then now start talking about good bandits and bad bandits. And then you discover that there's a pattern to the madness, that when things are like that, the fundamental question of the state is what is happening. In Igangan, when they now went to attack overnight, that was what brought out the Yoruba resistance. Let me put it that way. That when Sunday Igboho went through Igangan and did that and all that. So by attacking Igangan now, they are sending a message that, okay, you want war or you don't want us, we will force ourselves onto you. And also, if you look at how they operated in the Middle Belt, that was how they started, these villages. And then the Babangida regime at that time, that was how Jos was divided into Jos North and Jos South local government under his military regime. So the message they are sending is a political message. That's why I said earlier on, security is not just about military, soldiers and police and all the rest. It's a question of the ability of the people to live the lives in the way they want to live it. So when they now attack the Igangan now, they will now be waiting for those who say they are no longer part of Nigeria to respond. And if they respond, that is when you now see the army to come in. The military will now come in, say they want to displace them. The net effect of it is that the people in that area will become internal or external refugees. And when they become internal or external refugees, the United Nations will now come in and set up camps for them. And then, all the issue of all these things will start happening. And then they will leave that place and go somewhere else. So that's why we are saying that, the political motive, every terrorist group in the world always aim at overwhelming the state apparatus so that they can impose their choice political system on the rest of the country. That the people that they are governing will not have the confidence of the government anymore. Then they can dictate the peace. But in Nigeria's case, if we don't have confidence in our government, then we must be able to provide an alternative. If we don't provide an alternative and expect the United Nations to come and do it for us, the best they can do is to organize internal displaced persons, IDP camps in our own country. And then they will start all the politicking and things. So when all these things started, that was why we said, self-determination is not just about saying we don't want this or want to get out. You must have a plan to arrest what is disturbing your self-determination. If you don't have a plan, they will create a plan for you and you'll be responding to that plan. It is Igangan today. If we don't stand back and re-strategize, it will be another place tomorrow. Are we going to be responding emotionally every time? Then we have been defeated. So I know we are still going to come back into that. I just raised that as an issue. So what we are dealing with is a lesson in what I would call political strategy or political philosophy, that we need to understand what we are faced with, which, yes, slogans may matter, rallies may matter, but more importantly than that, the rallies and the slogans must be anchored on a cornerstone, on a foundation that cannot be shaken. And when they see that, the enemy itself will withdraw, will run back. But they know or they think that there's no such plan in place. Therefore, they can just, because when they went to, why Igangan in particular, it's a direct message that, okay, say you started this problem here. and we are coming there for you. Let's see what you can do. Hello, sir.
Thank you very much. I think what we could see, and we've spoken about it also in the past, where we begin to see that the government is actually not taking any action despite all these insecurities. In fact, people have mentioned that some of these perpetrators, they were caught and handed over to the police. Maybe some days or weeks later, they saw them walking free in the community. So many people back at home believe that if the government is not taking any action, and the government also is not allowing the people to take action, and I'm referring now to like Amatekun that was set up by some of the states in the Yoruba states, where they are restricted on the level of operation they could do by the federal government. So if people put this together, the federal government is not willing and ready to provide security for the people, and even the ones that were set up by the states, the federal government to restrict what they could do. Then people start to think that the government is at the back of this. What would be your view about that?
There's no doubt about that. That's why I said earlier on that terrorism or of whatever kind, whether they call it banditry or they call it Fulani herdsmen or whatever, is one aimed at destroying the confidence of the people in the government. And the only way they can do that is to make the government appear irresponsible to its responsibilities. But when the government itself is irresponsible, like we have said, they have the army, they have the police, they have this. And when, not even only in Igangan alone, it's been happening all over the time. You arrest people, you hand them over to the police, and the police let them go free. We don't have an internal security system of our own that we can say. We don't have an internal judicial system that can handle these things. So by the government allowing these things to happen, it means the government is, one, either in cahoots with the terrorists, or the government itself is overwhelmed that they cannot do anything. But you see that the second part cannot be completely true, because you can't say, if you have the means of coercion, you have the army and the police, you can't say you can't do anything. By not doing anything, it means you are acquiescing to what the terrorists are doing. So they have achieved their aim. The only problem there is that it is not just because we, the people now, have lost confidence in the government. It is the government that has shared its responsibility by losing confidence in us. That's why they cannot defend us, because they are saying we don't matter. The only thing we need to do is, okay, how do we now protect, not only protect, how do we exist? How do we prevent this from not just the intermittent attacks? How do we prevent the loss of our existence? How do we prevent making like another form of colonization? How do we prevent it in Yoruba land? That is the question that the Yoruba people have to face and they have to address. That the government, whether whoever is in government and whoever says anything in government, that they are powerless or appear to be powerless or acquiescing to the terrorist demand is not in doubt, has never been in doubt, and is no longer in doubt. So the only question is, what do we do about it? Who is the primary enemy? Are we going to be chasing all those people every time when they come and do their thing? And, it's a classic guerrilla operation that they carried out. They came in the middle of the night, did their havoc, and went away. They didn't hold any ground. Why didn't
Yes.
they hold ground? Because they want to prevent or make sure that the Nigerian army does not come. Because if the Nigerian army comes in, then it will be a different ball game, and they will have lost what they want to achieve. What they want to achieve is they want to bring us out, draw us out, and say, okay, say Igangan, you think you can do something, we will attack your base and see whether you will come against us. And when they now go against them, when the Yoruba people now organize to go against them, the Nigerian government will now have an excuse to now clamp down on Yoruba land. So they are working together. So if we understand the context, then what we need to do is to devise our own strategy that will truncate that connection with them. So Amotekun, yes, Amotekun was established, but they had already defined Amotekun by not making it a viable security outfit. That is number one. Number two, the way they went about Amotekun with all the grandstanding and the uniforms and all the rest of it shows that those who are behind Amotekun do not understand what security, insecurity, and terrorism means. When they were setting it up, there were those who were saying, look, you can't isolate insecurity from the general political issue. They are now being borne out that it's not just setting up Amotekun. Amotekun is a good catchphrase. It's a good, I mean, we all celebrated the actual Amotekun and all the rest of it. But that's not the establishment of that outfit, the way it was set up, will not have addressed the problem. So when you have a security outfit that has no judicial power, we don't have our own courts. We don't have our own means of establishing the parameters of justice. When you do it, you still give it to them and they will release them. So all these things have shown that the collectivity of the problem, that we are talking about human existence, human existentialism, Yoruba existence. And when you do that, and then, of course, we are inside a nation state. So the question is, if the nation state is not coming to our aid, what do we do with it? I don't know the Yoruba proverb to say that, okay, because this thing happened, I'm going to do this, I'm going to rush out. No, that's not the way to address it. It's more nuanced than that. And just by going to attack Igangan yesterday shows that there's a political command. There's a political command behind it that is expecting a political result. And that is what we should prevent. And that is what we should avoid. So I will simply say, yes, the government knows about it. Whether they know about the direct attack or not is even immaterial. Everything that they have been doing and saying has shown that they have acquiesced to terrorism. They have allowed them to run rampant in the land, and that's their own problem. Our own problem is how to address it, and I will advise caution that we don't now start raising up an ethnic militia to say that, okay, all the things we want to do, we'll go and do it and all that, because they have a reserve army. Now the Nigerian army may not succeed in terrorizing Yoruba land, but they will draw us back. And we have to avoid that by all means. And one of the ways we need to look at it is to actually put all these things in a political context. When I say political context, I'm not talking about running for elections. That is electoralism. Electoralism is just one aspect of the political context. But self-determination is a political demand. It's a political quest. And you must be able to address it from that perspective. Otherwise, it will be atomized. Insecurity leaning, Igangan Lola, you know, and then we'll be running all over the place. And we should avoid that. We should create a political momentum that will address these issues when they come up.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I mean, with the way things are, some people believe that insecurity in Nigeria, there are many factors, including our rising population, high rate of unemployment, the number of the youth that we have out there who are not gainfully employed. So people believe that it's all these and lack of maybe social engagements, that's part of what obviously led over time, years over years, which eventually led to the level of insecurity that we have in the country today. And at the backdrop of that, some other people have said we're just looking at a government that does not have the capacity and the capability to provide all these things. So would you now consider that the current system cannot meet those expectations? Would you consider it to be the problem of the system or the leadership of the country?
Yeah, thank you. It is the problem of the system. You know, the system throws up its own leadership. A system will throw up a leadership that will run it or sustain it or maintain it. You know, so it is the system in essence. So the first thing, the thing is, what is the system? We are saying that the post-colonial states in Africa, that is the governments that came after independence, they were not designed to promote any form of either job security or human existence. Why did I say that? Africa was a market for Europe. That was the essence of colonialism. So when they negotiated it or went away and did all that they did, the kind of states, that is the nation state they created, if it is allowed, and I will give you an example, if it is allowed to develop to its fullest capacity, it will become an impediment to European economic expansion.
Yes.
So you have a competition with Europe by the basis of the nation state, and then you have a competition within Africa itself. So the European paradigm, which is the nation state, that is one country that they brought all over the place, by definition, in Africa, creates a problem. In Europe, if you look at all the colonial powers that came to Africa and didn't come and all that, it's also always monocultural, monolingual, and mono whatever. But when they now came to Africa, the kind of states that they bequeathed is multinational, multicultural, multilingual, but under one state. So that automatically creates a contest, a confusion. And anyone that is dominant in those countries will seek to sustain its own dominance. That is where the system and leadership comes in. In Nigeria's case, we know what happened between the North and the East when they formed an alliance against the West, and everything was how to contain, how to dominate, especially the West. The example I was going to give was on the cocoa marketing board in Western region. You know, when all the things we are talking about, Awolowo this, Awolowo that, was between 1951 and 1960. Everything was done. We were still under colonial rule, but they managed to get that federalist system, which allowed the Western region to establish its own economic philosophy. When they started the developmental banking thing with the National Bank and Wema Bank. And to address the question of the farmers, the cocoa industry, they established the cocoa marketing board that was able to compete and relate with the commodity exchanges in Europe. And that way they were able to mediate between the farmers and the world prices. And they were doing that. Well, of course, that was the first major attack of what they call the structural adjustment program under the military. That's why I said it is systemic, and the system brings out its own leadership. So you had a military government of Babangida, which we also know is also a quote-unquote modernized military. And then based on some economic fallacy, and then they went to the IMF, and the IMF said, okay, you must do some what they call the structural adjustment. And the first thing they did with the structural adjustment is to cancel the cocoa marketing board and all the other regional marketing boards. So that shows you that the aim of the International Monetary Fund and the Western countries is not for economic development of Nigeria, but continuous exploitation of Nigeria's economy. So once they started with that, all these latter day issues, it's like, when you say poverty or people are roaming around, that's why they get into terrorism. They are fallacies. These youths and the graduates and all of them, they are human beings. They are rational human beings. They have the capacity to think. So for anyone to say it is because they don't have a job, that's why they engage in terrorism, that is a fallacy. Yes, they don't have a job. But, otherwise, all those countries that they have jobs, maybe they have terrorists in there, although not as major as our own. So what is happening? The Yoruba, they say, "Ibiki panu, koro mi war." But the thing is that when they resist in whatever manner, ebi tó ń panu yẹn ló máa create a solution tiẹ̀. So when you say that the youth, they are unemployed, they are this, therefore they resorted to terrorism. No, because when they don't have employment, there's a cause for that unemployment. And they see that the government that is supposed to address that unemployment is actually exacerbating the unemployment. So when they see that, it is a response to what the government is doing. And then the government that is creating the unemployment will now send out soldiers and police to start harassing and making life more difficult for them. And when they now respond, you now call them terrorists. You call them bandits. You call them, terrorism is also a political philosophy on its own. That's a different thing. Mm-hmm. That's a different thing. So what we are saying now is that, yes, the unemployment and this and this and this and this does not necessarily translate into banditry. Otherwise, you are condemning the human beings that are unemployed to a state of inanimacy that they cannot think. They know what is wrong. It's like when you look at what is happening now, you see the EFCC. Today they will say they arrested 45 Yahoo in Abeokuta. They arrested 100 Yahoo in Osogbo and all the rest. They are always arresting Yahoo, but they never arrested anyone that is causing a direct damage to your life. So that shows you that it is fallacious, a complete fallacy, to attribute what is happening to unemployment and this and or what they call climate change. These people, we are all human beings. We have capacity to be rational. And if someone engages in Yahoo, for example, not based on anything except, okay, there's no other way out. You can't say it is because of the unemployment. You have to look at, okay, why is there no other way out? I have given you the example of the Western Nigeria Marketing Board, the cocoa marketing board. Why is it that since 1986 or 1985, right, 1983, 84, that we have been doing engaging in one economic philosophy, Why is it that it has not provided an economically developed entity in Nigeria? You have to ask yourself that question. Why is it that all over the African continent, the only economy that is worth talking about, two of them, you have South Africa, which was essentially based on the former apartheid white economy. And then you have their new darling, which they call Rwanda, and which is based on massive crackdown, massive authoritarianism, let me put it that way, in Rwanda itself. So in our own case, why is it that if you say there is unemployment, there is this, there is that, there must be a cause for it? So what that's why I call it a fallacy. They are looking at the results. Okay, there is banditry, there is terrorism, there is this. But you are not looking at the cause, you are looking at the effect. And there's no way you can look at the effect to cure a cause. You have to look at the cause to address the effect. So if everything is about lack of unemployment and this and that, why is nobody talking about why that is so when it was not so under colonial rule? So the system is the problem. That is with the way. So when it throws up this leadership, this kind of leadership that we have, then if we limit it to leadership, then we now say, okay, let us have a better leadership. So, okay, that means you have to have a new president and all this and all that. But then the same president that will come will also have to work within a system that is already in place. So the only thing that president can do is to cut the relationship between the underdevelopment of Nigeria, which is the economic philosophy we have, and the strings with Europe. So if you do that, if you try to do that, you can be demonized or killed or overthrown, like we have seen that has happened. But the only way to address the system is actually to empower the people that make up that system, the people that are living. So if we recognize that we the Yoruba, and we are all nations anyway, by all descriptions, the Yoruba are a nation by any kind of category. The only thing we don't have is the ability to govern ourselves the way we want to govern ourselves. So if we say that there are these peoples in a particular geopolitical entity, and every system we have been having since 1980 has been compounded over time, the only rational thing to do is to say, let's do away with that system and create another one. But how do you create another one without the people that want to create it? So you will now sit down at some Aso Rock and then design some whatever program and blah, blah, blah. But that's not the way. If you look at the history of development and developmental economies in the world, that's not the way it happened. That's why we had the revolutions and all the rest, because the peoples in those countries took it up upon themselves to say, no, this is the way we want to go. And it is incumbent on the peoples in Nigeria, Yoruba people in particular, to say, no, this is the way we want to go. And like I said, it is not about demanding for Yoruba nation, because we are a nation already. Yeah. Linguistically, geographically, culturally, cosmologically safe. We even have a theology about God. So that's not the issue. The issue is, how do we ensure that we live in a way that we have designed for ourselves? So that's why I said it is not about leadership, it is about the system. Because the system you are pursuing will throw up the leadership that will sustain it.
Okay, thank you very much. We will be going on a short ad break now. Thank you, viewers. After the ad break, we will be coming around back to you. We still have Mr. Femi Odedeyi right on the studio with us, and we'll continue with this discussion. Remember, the topic of what we're dealing with today is Nigeria's security issues, with focus on Igangan / Ibarapa, and of course, Yoruba Southwest. So please do stay on with us. We will be back.
èmi ò lọ́nà méjì láyé tó dorin lọ orin ṣá ni iṣẹ́ mi ò tó dá mi lójú ẹ pè wá síbi ayẹyẹ ìyẹn nígbàkúgbà Yejement is a player ó ṣíwọ́jò ọlá mi mẹ́tì ló ń pèdè ẹ̀mújó akọrin bí ẹni jẹ̀kọ́ ìjòyà ọlá mi mẹ́tì ló ń pèdè ẹ̀mújó akọrin bí ẹni jẹ̀kọ́ ìjòyà.
ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ bọ̀bọ̀ alóyin lòun àpèdè má pè tànà ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lóde ìbànújẹ́ èèwọ̀ òrìṣà ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ́ba ń jó gbogbo wa ló mọ̀ yẹ ká mú pátì dùn ṣebí tiwa ni ara ò ní tán nílé alára láíláí ilé mo borí ilé mo bálù àtàndá ti ṣẹ́kọ̀ náà ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń fẹ́ wa ẹ̀ máa ṣe gan-an.
Àgbàrá òjò lówó nílé wo bí sọdún onílé ni ò ní gbà fún un. Èé ti rí èé ti ṣe àkọ́kọ́ dáyé àṣebáyégún karìnrìn gbàlàkà sọ̀rọ̀ falala kò pẹ́ kò jìnnà wọn láti ń gbọ́n. Ṣé Fúlàní yóò wá borí wa ni? Àgbààgbà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ẹ dìde o. Ẹ̀yin Àgbẹ̀kọ̀yà ẹ dìde. Ogun Fúlàní ò gbọ́dọ̀ borí wa. Ta ni yóò padà táyé ṣe o?
Ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o? Tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé? Ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú aṣòro bí èwe.
Wọ́n pa wá nígbàkúgbà ẹ̀fọ́ wọlé rán ẹ̀sìn ń wòran.
Yeah, you are most welcome back to the program. I still have Mr. Femi Odedeyi from Yoruba Referendum Committee right on here with us. And remember, what we're discussing about is Nigeria security issues. Igangan, Ibarapa, Yoruba Southwest. Like when we started overnight, there was a terrorist attack in the Igangan area of Ibarapa, that is in Oyo State, Yoruba Southwest, and we've been talking about it. So I'll bring our guest back, and that is once again Mr. Femi Odedeyi from Yoruba Referendum Committee. You are welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now, we've spoken about the system, quite right, and why the system needs a decisive, surgical dealings which should involve the people themselves rather than some people just sitting up there in Abuja to either create a constitution or review a constitution that was not made by the people for us to have an effective governance in Nigeria when the people are able to decide how they want to be governed. And of course, you are not talking about the people of Nigeria generally, but that people are recognized as they are, the Yoruba people as a nation within Nigeria, and of course, other people as well as their own nation within Nigeria. Before we move on to actually the details of nation within a nation, I want us to talk about the Igangan Ibarapa issue. And I think you've mentioned this briefly about the attack overnight being like a statement. A good number of people also believe that it was claimed to be based on Governor Seyi Makinde's statements against the action of the Buhari-led APC government on Twitter, banning Twitter and the usage of Twitter in Nigeria. So majority believe that, okay, because it seems that simultaneously there was attack in Benue, and we know that Governor Autumn of Benue has been very, very vocal about some of the issues are happening in Nigeria. And of course, the Makinde also made a statement, and people believe that. On the backdrop of what we've discussed about, and which you've expatiated upon, do you think there could have been something the Oyo State governor or government should have been able to do to prevent this attack, bearing in mind that when it comes to Oyo State versus this new insecurity, we started from Igangan, and Sunday Igboho's attendance at that place. Do you think there should have been something the Oyo State government should put in place or should have done in view of what has just happened?
Yes, obviously, but that's also a reflection of the weakness of our responses in this way, in this manner. Amotekun as a security outfit must have had some kind of intelligence gathering capability, and I believe General Togun, that's the commander for Oyo State, I think,
Yes,
did make mention during the week that some kind of attack is imminent on from the terrorists. Whether the governor now takes it seriously or not, I have no way of knowing. But it's also a weakness of the security architecture of Yoruba land in general. Let me put it that way. And that's what we are saying, that yes, they say the governors are just chief security officers in name. Okay, fine. But there are people, human beings living under your territory. So whether the central government likes it or not, the people have a right to defend themselves. You can then appropriate or approximate that self-defense not to degenerate into inter-ethnic strife. And if you take what is happening in Benue State as an example, this whole scenario reflects what has been happening in Benue State. That's how they operate so far. They will go into a community, kill them and run away, and then come back and all that. And the government will be crying. The governor will be crying. When you say you are a governor and you are part of the people of that community, Makinde is a Yoruba person, whichever party he belongs to. If you say you are a Yoruba person and Yoruba land is being threatened by whatever it is coming from, it is your responsibility. And then they elected you as a leader of that community. It is your responsibility to involve Yoruba people in the defense of their own area, regardless of what the central government does. So all this showmanship, which is what Amotekun has become, is a failure of the understanding of the security needs, not only the security needs, I would say the political needs of the people. Because in Oyo State, he is in PDP. He will be making his own calculation. They pay these APC people, they want to dislodge me. APC will be making their own calculation. They want to dislodge him. And they will be going to the Supreme Court, Nigerian Supreme Court, and they will be fighting their battles there. Meanwhile, these what they call non-state actors, which they are they call them non-state actors officially, but unofficially they are state actors because the government allows them to roam and run riot all over the place. So they are operating, and you know it. You don't have to be a governor. We all know how they operate. We read the newspapers. We hear accounts. So all you need to do as a Yoruba person, not even as a governor, is to empower Yoruba people to defend their territories, their land. How do you do that? It's not about running certain up an ethnic militia or anything like that. They have people living in those communities. They have, so instead of the razzmatazz of Amotekun and all the rest of it, you organize your own internal security based on the wishes and the needs of the people themselves. So they can either alert people, do this and do that and all the rest of it, and many measures can be taken. But you see, the first thing is to recognize yourself as a Yoruba person, recognize yourself as a Yoruba leader, recognize yourself as representing Yoruba people, not your political party, even though your political party brought you into power. So there are a lot of things the governor could have done. There are a lot of things the government of Oyo State could have done. There are a lot of things, but you see, they are also now becoming they are hampering the self-expression. Let me put it that way. Hampering the self-expression of Yoruba people in terms of dealing with their own existential imperatives. The other time he had the security meeting, what they call the security meeting with the police, army, and all the rest of them. They said they are setting up a high-powered technical something. I don't know what came out of it. So, and of course, I'm not saying that they will have foreseen exactly what happened in Igangan yesterday or overnight. They may, not necessarily so. But what I'm saying is that when we understand the political nature, like I said, I'm not talking about electoral nature. I'm talking about the political nature of the problem that you are facing. That will, one, make us understand that this thing is likely to happen sooner than later.
Yeah.
And then, two, that it happened in the Igangan specifically is a direct challenge to Sunday Igboho and all the, we are no longer in Yoruba now. Three, is also a testament to the irresponsibility of the central government in terms of security. Four, it is a testament to the ineffectiveness of Amotekun as a political structure, because security is a political structure. The armed forces of any country is a political structure aimed at protecting and promoting and projecting the political interests of the country. So it's not just a technical issue. It's not just a question of having weapons. It's not just a question of training that they are talking about. You have to develop a political culture that will fuel your security initiatives. That is why you see all these US, Europe, and all the rest having military this and that, because they have a political notion of what they are. So that is the basic thing. That is the basic failure of Makinde in Oyo State and probably other governors in Yoruba land also. So the first thing I would say is I hope and I want to say that Sunday Igboho should not fall into the trap that is being set for him. It's not for his personal. The issue is not whether anybody is ready to die for anything. That's not the issue. The point is they have carried out that attack to try to force him to come and attack them. And that should be avoided at all costs. So our responsibility, our response is to sit back and re-strategize. Why are we separating security or insecurity from the political context of our existence? That is the issue. We can, once we are able to address that, then we will be able to address all these terrorists or no terrorists and all. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you see the terrorists are doing their own thing. The central government is doing its own thing. At the end of the day, the central government will now come in and say, okay, you this in Igangan, and maybe they will now try to create two local governments. So I don't know whether they will do that in Igangan area. But you see, the thing is, they will now start creating their own distractions. That is the central government. and we will be chasing shadows by chasing those distractions. So let us say we have enough experience. We have enough experience in, I will address the question that just came up, but let me quickly say this. We have enough experience in Benue State to show that this is the trend that is going on. Then let us draw from that experience and not fall into the trap that they are setting for us. Quickly, with diversion, this question that just came up, how can the governor govern a state when he does not have authority over the law enforcement? That is the question. That when you say, when I say security cannot be divorced from the political context. When you say you are a governor, you are a political leader, as it were. Therefore, everything must be subsumed under that political context. So if you say you are a governor and you don't have authority over law enforcement, then you are not a governor. You are not a governor, because that's what I've been saying all along. Amotekun new, all these things new. We don't have control over the judicial and law enforcement system in Yoruba land. We don't have it. We don't appoint anybody into the office. We don't do this. It is a Nigerian thing. So to be a governor, a real governor, means you must have political authority over your security arrangements. Now, we are now saying, yes, we recognize they don't have it, and these things are happening. What do we do about it? Maybe that's why we bring in what we are talking about. That what we are saying is that the Yoruba people for Yoruba land, they have been alienated from governance. When I say alienated, that's what I've been saying all along, that we are not part of, we have been taken away from the system. They are just bringing everything to us, and we are just taking it. They don't recognize us as a people that matter in the. It's not just recognizing you as a people doesn't just mean somebody becoming this and that. It means your existential philosophy is part of your governance. That is what self-determination is all about. And every post-colonial state in Africa has been denying that for the peoples of the African continent, and Nigeria is not an exception. So what we need to do now is, as we have been advocating, we just need to sit back and re-strategize, and then let our people understand that security or insecurity is not just a question of weapons or training or this and that. It's a political issue. What is the political issue? Self-government. What is self-government? The ability to have your own security, judicial, economic philosophy, that you want to run your own country. What does that mean? That means the constitution that binds you together must reflect that reality. If it doesn't reflect that reality, how do you change it? You don't need to go to them to say, you don't reflect our reality, so change it. No, you create your own. When you create your own, let them come and tell you you have no right to do that. Then we know where we are going. So in essence, this whole thing is about changing the content of the state, the nation state, what they call the nation state, or what we call the post-colonial state. That is the problem we have in Africa. That is the problem in Nigeria. And the only way a nation state can exist is when it has a single language, a single culture, a single paradigm. And if all the other nationalities, all the other peoples in Nigeria are disorganized and thrown away and all that, then you have one hegemony that is controlled, then Nigeria becomes a nation state. But as it is still a work in progress, and we can stop it. So that the whole question of the European model of the nation state, which they have imposed on Africa, must be jettisoned. That's the bottom line. There was a question somewhere when I said on this nation state that no nation state can develop the way Europe developed, and they say, but some other countries broke up and this and that. We are in a peculiar historical era in the world where Europe will not take kindly to the emergence of a strong nation state in Africa that will challenge it. So you have to destroy their paradigm. Haiti, that started the whole Haitian Revolution and the French égalité, liberté, and fraternité. We know how they dealt with Haiti, that Haiti is still paying reparations. They are paying for their own slavery because all these countries. So now we have a sort of growing rebirth in the Western world, like in America, where there's a battle for the soul of America itself. In Europe, France is talking about getting out of its colonial past and all the rest, and Germany. So our struggles should also key into that, because when Europe also finds out that, let's say, the Yoruba self-determination struggle is tied or is part of the Scottish, you just use it as an example, it's part of the Scottish referendum for independence. And we also relate formally and informally. This is not about UNPO or anything, but how many of our people even understand what is going on in Scotland? How many of our people understand what is going on in Catalonia in terms of their struggle for self-determination? How many of our people are ready to even understand what is going on in the United States with Black Lives Matter and all the rest of it? So when we combine all these things, the governments in those European countries will be forced to reckon with us, whether they like it or not. Otherwise, their whole system will be under threat. So these are the methods we need to look at. These are the methods we need to pursue. And these are the things we need to do in our own environment.
Okay. Thank you very much for that explanation. And it was a great question by, I think it's Solomon Oluwabi, about the governors not being in authority over the law enforcement. And I think that is what you also explained that.
Yeah.
I mean, if the governor is not, we don't have our judiciary, we don't control the law enforcement, then talking about being the chief security officer of the state is just a title, and the money that is geared towards that is just maybe for political palliative among them. So now getting back, and I also think you've, because that would have been another question to ask, but you did mention that Igbo, Sunday Igbo and the others should not fall into the trap of what is happening at Igangan at the moment, because that would be the expectation, that Igbo and the others will come into Igangan, then maybe they will now go all out to use that one to for their incursion into the Yoruba space. But as is now, let's say we've taken it that the law enforcement, they are not under the control of the governor. We've also seen that they've always taken sides on the part of the perpetrators. And we are also now saying that, okay, Sunday and the rest like that should not engage for now. Meanwhile, Amatekun also, which happens to be the security network for Southwest, minus Lagos, because Lagos has not got Amatekun. They too have been restricted sort of on the level of security activities they could carry out. So what should be done now by whether the Igangan community or the community around? I mean, what's the next thing to do in order to support that community?
Okay. One, my answer will be divided into 2 or 3 parts. One is, of course, the immediacy the immediacy of what is to be done. Of course, we can't bring back the dead. They will rest in peace. We can't say we are going to set up a militia to surround the place because they are not likely to come back there. They will find another place. So in terms of immediacy, many things can be done. Help for those who needed help and all the rest and things like that. We can be doing that. The major part of it is this. And that's why I said I hope Sunday Igboho will not fall into the trap. When, going about, yes, Yoruba nation now, Yoruba nation now, Yoruba nation now. The Yoruba states are not under one regional government. We are not under one regional administration. That allows the central government to manipulate the 6 governments in whichever way it wants to do it. That's like I said, this guy, Makinde, is in PDP and the others are in APC, then they will start arguing among themselves. Ordinary local government elections in Oyo State, they took themselves to the Nigerian court to resolve for them. So what we are saying is that instead of saying Yoruba nation now, why don't we start demanding one regional government now? If we say we want a regional government, and that's where I've been trying to avoid bringing in the referendum thing, but I think we can't actually avoid it. That's why we are saying in the referendum that what we are asking for is for one regional government. Let all the states band together. Do we agree? It's a yes or no question. Do you agree that all the Yoruba states should come under one regional government or not? And then if we say the answer is yes, we are now saying of course, we are not going to run out all the governors, but we are going to set up a constitutional commission that will now act on behalf of Yoruba land. So both can go pari passu. Why is that important? We are saying that the petition we are talking about is for us to have the capacity to act on our own behalf. If we just say, okay, the Yoruba Referendum Committee hosts a press conference, and we need this, we need that, the governor is likely to say, don't mind them. The central government is likely to say, don't mind them. But when we have a membership, let me use it that way, we have a membership through the petition. We say we have 50 million people. Out of the 50 million people, we have 1 million signatures. Okay, this is what we want. If any of the state governors now say they are opposed to it, we have given ourselves, because that petition, that membership has given us a validity, a legitimacy to even appeal to international audience so that we can say these people are not representing us again. They are not representing us, then we are able to do whatever it is we want to do to protect, not only to protect ourselves, but to live the lives that we want to live. At that point, the governors will either have to either succumb or they become the enemies of the people. So they will not be able to hide behind, I don't have the authority to do this. I'm not the chief security officer, but I can't appoint this. They will not be able to hide behind that anymore. They will either have to follow us or we throw them aside. So that's it may be, you may say, but it's not immediate, so which is what a lot of people will say. But you see, what happened in Igangan is not an immediate thing. Like I said, if you look at Benue State and Plateau State, that is their modus operandi. That's how they operate in all those places. Even in all the Boko Haram areas, they come in the night, attack, and run away. That is classical guerrilla tactics. But guerrilla tactics the guerrilla tactics also has a political motive. And when you address that political motive, you destroy their tactics. So if say Sunday Igboho hosts a rally now, and you have 50,000 people there, and the 50,000 people put their hands in the signature, that even if Igboho says declares himself the field marshal of Yoruba land, he has the authority to do that. So that's what we are saying, that we need, and if we do that, any governor that comes and says, I've been elected to office, maybe you are the people that elected you to office, and we are saying this is what we want. You can't run away from it. So we need to get that political initiative, and we can only get it when we understand that all these things happen for a political purpose. When we understand that political purpose, we'll be able to provide the necessary answer. It's not a question of whether anybody is ready to die or shed his blood for anybody. That's not the issue. The issue is we are faced with a political. You see, the thing is this: they know that is the terrorists and the central government and the rest of them. They know that we are not addressing the issue from a political perspective. It pays them that we have atomized it, insecurity, and they will keep us on that insecurity while they are doing their political manipulation. So if we now turn around, and you can see the various arrogant statements that are coming out from Gumi and all the rest of them, you can see that once you start addressing the political context of security and insecurity, I'm telling you, there will be a difference. There will be a response, and we will avoid the situation in Benue and Plateau states, because look at what happened in Benue and Plateau when these things were happening. They were also talking about insecurity and all that. Then the elections will come. They will ram somebody into the power equation, and they will continue like that. And the middle belt will be saying, we are not part of the North, we are not part of the North. But you are all the political solution to your insecurity is anchored on the North. So it's the same thing here. You say you are the government, you don't have authority on law enforcement. It's a political question. It's not a security question. It's not because you don't have money to buy guns or weapons for the security agencies. It's not because you can't employ people into Amotekun or not, which you have done. It's not because you can't train people in security. No, it is a political question because the security architecture has a different political purpose from yours. You are just a Beudani governor. Anyway, that is the core. That is the core. It may be, you can say, but it's not addressing. What is that expression? Ki aja to yangbe, ayangbe aja dun. Nǹkan lasha ma jẹ ki aja ti yangbe already. We have aja gbe akunfe jẹ ni. So we are the ones running away from the solution.
Yes.
That is the problem. We are the ones running away from the real solution that we should address.
Right. Thank you very much for that. I'll just quickly read what was left by one of our viewers. He said, the attack on Ibarapa need to be handled intelligibly, and if possible, Igbo should not even speak about it in public. It is high time for the agitators to act in intelligent manner. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Solomon Oluwabiji. And at the backdrop of that, the next one that I actually want to talk about, obviously you've mentioned a little bit about it, which is about the ongoing petition.
Yes.
But also a question came from our viewer, Solomon Oluwabi, about how can one regional government for the Yoruba state be accomplished in the current Nigerian system?
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, you are going to answer that. But before you answer that, I'm going to play a video. It's a video of President Muhammadu Buhari. And I believe that this is going to be very helpful in answering this question, and also for other people that are watching us as well. This is Aman Pour from Al Jazeera was interviewing President Muhammadu Buhari. I'll get this in.
Are protesting peacefully for the most part on a regular basis, and there has been video. I could show you some video that's been posted of a very...
No, thank you.
These are the images the president didn't want to see. They're on the internet and we can't verify exactly what they show, but it appears as though security forces were shooting at unarmed protesters in the southeastern state of Abia. This is footage I can't personally verify, but it looks as though the security forces have gone in very heavy-handedly shooting, and there were reported to be 7 deaths. I'm wondering, how are you planning to deal with this issue of Biafra? You, of course, have first-hand experience.
Put a 30-month civil war, at least 2 million Nigerians were killed. And for somebody to wake up, maybe he wasn't born when there was just fighting in Biafra and said he wants Biafra again. We have multi-party democratic system now. Let them organize themselves and vote for to have a state within a state.
Yeah, so that's exactly where I am coming to, with President Muhammadu Buhari saying that why can't those youth organize themselves and vote to have a state within a state? That is, to have a Biafra nation, just as an example, a Biafra nation within Nigerian states.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that that's sort of related to what you are suggesting, and of course, probably will help in answering the question that has been posted by Mr. Solomon Oluwabi.
Yes. Okay.
So
yes.
I'll give you the floor.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Either Buhari misspoke, or maybe the word just dropped out of his mouth, or maybe he meant what he said. We don't know. But the thing is, when he said a state within a state, actually answers the question that yes, well, instead of running riot all over the place, why don't you organize yourself, mobilize yourself, vote for what you want within the Nigerian state? So if it is Biafra you want, just like we are saying we want a regional government for Yoruba land, this is what we want, and it can be within Nigeria. Now, the question is this. Earlier on we talked about the system and leadership. When we have right now, what we have is what they call a nation state. That is a country state. You have a country and you have a state. So when you have a Biafra state within a state, you have a Yoruba regional government, you have changed the system. It's no longer a nation state, but a multinational state. Because when you have a Biafra state or a Yoruba regional government or state or whatever, they are not going to be bound by the present constitution. That is what we are actually saying, and that's why I said maybe Buhari misspoke, or maybe he doesn't understand what he was talking about, or maybe he meant what he was talking about. That if you can organize and have your different regions, then we will have a new Nigeria. That's the implication of it. A Nigeria that has a Biafra as a state or region or whatever, Yoruba land as a state that has its own districts, will not be under the current 1999 constitution. Well, so the implication of what he said is that Nigeria can become a multinational state. if he understood what he was saying. I believe he's intelligent enough to understand what he's saying. So that's what you see. That is the danger in just sloganeering or paraphrasing things. So when we say Nigeria is a is a political construct, it's a political nomenclature, it's a name. Okay, you don't want the name. We don't like the name Nigeria because somebody's girlfriend gave the name and all that. Okay, they can say we want to change the name to Songhai Empire or Songhai Republic. Would you like Songhai Republic? If you have Yoruba nation and you have Biafra nation, are they going to have any relationship with each other, or are they going to be going their separate ways? Now, let us consider the implication. Let's even assume that we have an independent Yoruba nation outside Nigeria, and those who want to remain can remain. And you have an independent Biafra nation outside Nigeria, and the others can go. Between Yoruba nation and Biafra nation, for example, they will be competing for international support and this and that. Biafrans are already saying they are the lost tribe of Jews of Israel. We are also saying we have some connection and all that. So we will also be fighting each other on that basis, because we will have different expectations from our national sovereignties. But what we are saying is that because of the peculiar nature of Africa in history, the transatlantic this slave trade, and the relationships that had existed even pre-colonial times, that we can actually model a multinational state that will allow the fullest expression of the existential prerogatives of any of the nationalities. And that is why I said when we have it, it's not to operate under the current system. It's actually to replace it, to replace the current system. If that is what Buhari meant, fine. I mean, that's what we are doing. If not, maybe he needs to go and check his stuff. But let's assume that that's what he meant. So we, on our own part, are saying, okay, yes, let us have a referendum for regional government. That is just the first step. That we have a system in place, but we want a regional government, and we say that regional government will set up a commission to negotiate with the rest of the country and the international community on what we want. If the Biafrans can also do that, and then they set up their own commission and all that, by the time the only thing, let's now assume that Buhari misspoke, then Buhari would not say, no, you can't have that in Nigeria. Go and let the North also do their own now. If they don't, then we have already established our capacity to do whatever it is that we want for ourselves. And if you read what Debanjo said when they went for this conference in Abuja the last time, when he was talking about, there was one important thing in the demands that they made, that their notion of true federalism must include a provision where the region will not be under the domination of any other region or something along that line.
Yeah.
Which is also included in our own referendum proposal. So what we are saying, in essence, is the reconstruction of the nation-state paradigm, the reconstruction of the European nation-state into a multinational state, so that when we say we have a country, by whatever name it is called, when we say we have a country, that country reflects the peoples that are living in that country and what they can do. The Yoruba, we exist up to Benin Republic, Ghana, Brazil, and all the rest. And we have stated this several times. Your mother tongue, the indigenous language, is the best method for producing and reproducing knowledge. So we have Yoruba as the language of instruction in our schools. And Yoruba school in Finland or Australia or anywhere else. But if you are living in Yoruba land, Yoruba language is a method of instruction. That's what happens. So when you have all those things, the state apparatus that, and earlier on I said the security is a political issue.
Yes.
We need to come to say, do we actually even need an army? Why do we need armies in Africa? Who are our enemies that we are creating an army to fight?
Yes.
So these are political questions you have to address. They created the colonial armies to suppress the different peoples in those, and it is those colonial armies that have become national armies. That's why they are fighting the people inside the countries. Because if you look at it, if we say Africa is going to have any enemy, the enemy is likely to be Europe or now Asia. So if we are going to have a national army, are we going to have an army that has the orientation of fighting Europe? That's a question that can be answered. Or are you going to have an army that will fight the Ijo? Or that will fight the Fulani itself? So these are the questions. When you have an internal security system, are you going to be saying that you are going to set up an EFCC? I'm just using that as an example. To be fighting when you don't address the questions of the or are you going to set up an internal security system that will be infiltrating all the different groups that are coming into you? All these kind of questions. So they are political issues. And they have to be addressed like that. We say we have a Nigerian Navy. Which Navy force are we fighting against? Cameroon, Benin Republic, so all these things will come into the consciousness of the formation of any state that we have in mind. Switzerland, based on the experience that they had in its formation and its history and its origins and stuff like that, was able to maintain a neutrality during the war and not a fighting force, as it were, although it has its own army and all that. So these are issues that we need to address, and not just sloganeering and all the rest. And so yes, it is, when you have a regional government or you have a state within a state, it is the implication is that the Nigerian state will be modified or recalibrated to reflect that reality. So it moves from a nation state to a multinational state.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much for that great explanation. Now, I am coming back to the petition, the Yoruba referendum petition that is ongoing. But before then, I want to ask this question because there are times people seem to be saying the same thing, but in different ways. And because there's no point of where all divergent views come together, then it becomes slightly difficult for them to accept that they are saying the same thing. In the past 1 week, we've had Chief Afe Babalola stated that Nigeria should return to the 1963 constitution. Majority of the people as well, almost all over the country, including the progressives in the north, have been able to identify the time when we have regional government as the best time for Nigerian state. When we even look at the political class at the moment, majority of them, basically from the Southwest, are talking about restructuring. And when you when you ask about that restructuring, everybody is still saying that, yeah, we should have our own state police, which is just the law enforcement that you were talking about. Unfortunately, they are not talking about having our own judiciary, but then they were talking about having our police being in control of our resources and then giving percentage to the center. And if you look at all this, I mean, there's an element where all this converge in each of those views or political proposal, where you just feel is that so that the people could decide on how they want to be governed. So if we have this sort of thought that people believe that we should be in a state to have the people control their own government. Even now, when it comes to restructuring, that's about the people in a particular area. However, the one with restructuring seems to be working alongside the states. That is, each state, individual states, having their own power, contrary to a sort of a regional arrangement where the particular people, like the Yoruba people, have their own governments, they're already a nation, but having like a government, a state government within Nigeria. Why is it difficult for these proponents of whether it's restructuring, whether it's the Yoruba nation now, it's about the Yoruba people making decisions about their own lives. So both the people that are talking about, let's go back to 1963 Constitution, obviously they are talking about the government of the people, the particular people for their own government for their own people. Whether it's the people that are talking about restructuring, we still like let the people in this place decide what they want and not being directed from the center. And of course, the other ones as well. So what exactly is the difficulty? Why does it seem so impossible for all these views to find a common ground, to know that we are asking for the same thing, although probably deeper, one side could be deeper than the other one, and the best way we will achieve it is to have the power within our base. When we talk about the power, you are talking about the government itself, you are talking about the judiciary, you are talking about the law enforcement that is actually handled by the people based on their own needs as the people. Why is it difficult?
Yeah, well, we all arrive at our conclusions from different perspectives. With due respect to people like Chief Afe Babalola and stuff, these are people that have been in government and been in this and this and that. So from their own experience, they came to certain conclusions. Other people, like those of us who are just on the fringes of political activity, also arrived at our own conclusions. And, the part of reaching conclusions involve making a critique of an existing reality. So if somebody says 1963 Constitution, let's go back to it, and we say we can't go back to 1963 Constitution. Why? Because it was not the 1963 Constitution that created the regions. It was the regions that created the 1963 Constitution. It was the 1951, the Federalist Macpherson-Littleton Constitution that allowed the elections into the regional systems that eventually gave way to the 60. So you now have two different perspectives. One is looking at it from the top that say, okay, maybe we had 1963 Constitution. And one is saying, but if you go beyond that, it was not the 63 Constitution that created the regions, it was the regions that created the 60. So the first thing is to get back to the source. Despite that, yes, there are areas of agreement and all that. So why are we not coming together? Like I said, political struggles have different contexts. while it is a clear-cut demarcation between 1963 Constitution and 1999 Constitution. So those who are proposing 1963 Constitution can feel comfortable that they have a superior logic, especially when the 1999 Constitution has shown itself totally irrelevant to the development of human life. So, and then you now come up with, okay, well, let's do something else. That's why we are saying when the people are involved or going to be involved, when their lives are going to be involved, they must be able to partake in whatever it is that is going to affect their lives. Unfortunately, over history, referendums have been conducted, even in Nigeria itself, when the Midwest was going, they conducted the referendum for them. So that's why we are saying, Chief Babalola, everybody, fine, no problem. We have no argument with it. Let us hold a referendum on how we move forward. And that's why the referendum has been sort of aggregated. It's not saying, do you want 1963 or not? It's not saying, do you want Yoruba nation now or not? It's simply saying, let us be one. All of us agree that we don't want unnecessary violence, even when it is brought to us as it is done in Igangan now. We are not going to allow ourselves to respond to that provocation. What we are going to do is to say there's a political context, so let's address the political context. And let us say whether we want a regional government or not. If we say yes, we want a regional government, then the procedure, set up the commission and all that. So it is now the responsibility of the commission to deal with issues that the governors cannot deal with. It is now the responsibility of the Constitutional Commission to relate with, and the Yoruba people can have confidence in that commission because they have a valid legal document. They have said, this is what we want. So while even when we have a Yoruba Republic or nation or whatever, there will still be different political tendencies within that, So what we are saying is, let us create an environment for those tendencies to even flourish. Shebi, in Britain, you had Farage. What's the guy's name? National Front, called Farage. In France, you have Le Pen, a National Front. Here, you have in America, you have a developing Le Pen. And I hope that it will go the way the National Front went. Anyway, what we are saying is that, so you can even have fringe political movements. Maybe in Israel now, they are saying that very right-wing opposition movements are forming together, including some Arab political parties that want to get rid of Netanyahu. So, but they cannot be doing that if they don't have that. So that's what we are saying, that whether it is 1963 or Abiyoshi 1963, let us have a single operating base, which is what we can say is a regional government. Or if we don't do that, whether it is 1963 or 1999 or any other constitution, the 6 states will be easily manipulated, especially when we all agree, and we can see it with our Kurokoro eyes, as they say, that the governors are powerless. Maybe they will just manipulate anybody to be governor, and then they will be doing whatever it is they want to do. So your state can say yes, Ekiti state will say no, and this state will say, and everything will dabaru. And state administrations are just mere administrative entities. Oyo State too. It's just an administrative entity. Oyo State is not Yoruba. Yoruba. Our Yoruba people live there. But the people in Oyo State who are Yoruba and the people in Ekiti State who are Yoruba have more than the state administrations in common. So what we are saying is that as Yoruba, we can decide to have every city gone as a state in Yoruba land. Okay, Let every village become a state. That is our administrative choice. But what we are now saying is that as Yoruba people, with a global cultural, lingual connection, let us make that determination ourselves. So if people like Chief Babalola and all the rest will just, come on board and be part of this whole movement, all those issues will be. I won't want to get into the question of, interest, ego, because sometimes when you are proposing certain things, somebody comes with a different idea. The initial reaction is, where are you coming from? And then on that basis, because we have seen some people on this Yoruba referendum thing who are opposing us. And when you tell them that what you are asking, the question you are asking is already contained in that bill, they have that below, but they will not have read it. They didn't read it. It's just that they just say, it was in the Yoruba referendum, and then they start listing objections. If you now say, but you have this thing, why don't you read it? Then they will look, okay, sorry. So people come to conclusions from different perspectives. So what we need to do is to try to make sure that we all understand not only the commonality, but the reality of those perspectives. Yes, we understand why you are saying this, but it can't work because of this. And this is why we should do this. Then we can dialogue among ourselves and then arrive at because if there's no opposing thought, a thought that speaks to itself will just be like your echo chamber. You are just listening to yourself. It is when you receive an opposing thought that you now consider whether to sustain your own thought or to adjust it or to accommodate other thoughts. So I think the thing goes both ways. Where we expect, yes, we know all these things. We have interacted with quite a lot of them. And we thank God that at least Afenifere has, accepted our proposals. Let me put it that way. Or they are helping us to project those proposals. And, it's not the time to gloat or anything, or even to say, maybe when we are talking about, no. The point is, we have a destination, and at any point that anybody comes on board, let's get to that destination. When we get to that destination, we can now say, we are Jakadini, Adoma, Fani. But let's get to that destination first.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We will be going on a short ad break now. When we come back, we'll be looking at the last part, the last segment of this interview, which will actually be talking about the Yoruba Referendum Committee's ongoing petition, and to see progress, and of course, to be able to talk to people who might be listening for the first time or might want to ask further questions about the referendum. So people, please do stay on with us, because we'll be back after this session.
Thank you.
Èmi ò lọ́nà méjì láyé tó dorin lọ, orin ṣá ni iṣẹ́ mi ò tó dá mi lójú. Ẹ pè wá síbi ayẹyẹ ìyẹn nígbàkúgbà, Yejement is a player o, Oṣùọ̀jọ̀ Ọlámímẹ́tì ló ń pèdè, ẹ̀mújó akọrin bí ẹni jẹ̀kọ́ o, ìjòyà. Ọlámímẹ́tì ló ń pèdè, ẹ̀mújó akọrin bí ẹni jẹ̀kọ́, ìjòyà.
ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ bọ̀bọ̀ alóyin lòun àpèdè má pè tànà ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lóde ìbànújẹ́ èèwọ̀ òrìṣà ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ́ba ń jó gbogbo wa ló mọ̀ yẹ ká mú pátì dùn ṣe bí tiwa ni àrà ò ní tán nílé alára láíláí ilé mo borin ilé mo bálù àtàndá ti ṣẹ́kọ̀ náà ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń fẹ́ wa ẹ̀ máa ṣe gan-an.
àgbàrá òjò lówó nílé wo bí sọdún onílé ni ò ní gbà fún un. èé ti rí èé ti ṣe àkọ́kọ́ dáyé àṣebáyégún karìnrìn gbàlàkà sọ̀rọ̀ falala kò pẹ́ kò yìnbọn wọn láti ń gbọ́n. ṣé fúlàní yóò wá borí wa ni. àgbààgbà nílẹ̀ yorùbá ẹ dìde o. ẹ̀yin àgbẹ̀kọ̀yà ẹ dìde. ogun fúlàní ò gbọ́dọ̀ borí wa. Tani yóò padà táyé ṣe o.
ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o. tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé. ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe. àgbà ìlú aṣòro bí èwe.
wọ́n pa wá nígbàkúgbà ẹ̀fọ́ wọlé rán ẹ̀sìn ń wòran. àbòdìgbà tí fúlàní bá gbẹ̀mí gbogbo lé tán. ọjọ́ ọ̀la wá sódìgbà tí wọ́n bá fi.
Right, you welcome to the program. And that's for those that are joining us. But for those that are been with us right from the start of this interview, you are welcome back once again. I'm still with Mr. Femi Odedeyi, all the way from Yoruba Referendum Committee. You are welcome back, sir, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All this time. I'm going to talk about the Yoruba referendum petition.
Yes.
And before that, I still want to make reference to the statement by President Muhammadu Buhari. It's very, very important because when you mention some things to people, the people will start off with excuses. The first thing is not in the Constitution of Nigeria. The next thing, what if the politicians do not agree? People come with different loads of excuses, and I think it's quite very important because I remember that when Amatekun was going to be formed, even the Chief Justice of Nigeria, including the IG at that time, we went up like that no, it's unconstitutional, it's not within the law. But people were able to push it through. The voice or the voices of the people prevailed over the reps at the southwest houses of assembly, and the bill was pushed into the law, and Amatekun was established. Amatekun is live today. Of course, it's been restricted a little, it's sort of, but then it went through. And so I want to make reference back to this Buhari statement that instead of people destroying things, they should simply organize themselves and vote to have whichever nation they want within a nation. Obviously, you've expanded that to explain that it will be a multi-nation country, since we have many nations in Nigeria. So I will just say that once again for the purpose of the people that are watching and for others that might watch this program later. I'm not going to play the full video, but the ones I really want to pick is where President Muhammadu Buhari proposed that instead of people, especially the youth, going out to destroy other people's property or blocking other people's movements, in which we've always been saying this as well, that if we don't do things the way we should do it, we end up hurting ourselves, either hurting our businesses or even the lives of our people. So that's why can't people organize themselves and then vote to have whatever nation they want within Nigeria. So we'll take that again.
Yeah.
Internet, and we can't verify exactly what they show, but it appears as though security forces were shooting at unarmed protesters in the southeastern state of Abia. This is footage I can't personally verify, but it looks as though the security forces have gone in very heavy-handedly shooting, and there were reported to be 7 deaths. I'm wondering, how are you planning to deal with this issue of Biafra? You, of course, have first-hand experience.
Quote, a 30-month civil war, at least 2 million Nigerians were killed. And for somebody to wake up, maybe he wasn't born when there was just fighting in Biafra and said he wants Biafra again. We have multi-party democratic system now. Let them organize themselves and vote for to have a state within a state.
Right. I'm going to just stop it right on there. Let them organize themselves and vote to have a state within a state. So I take that to be a nation within Nigeria. This came from the mouth of President Muhammadu Buhari, who happens to be the president of Nigeria at the moment, and of course the CNC, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He's also the head of the political Nigeria or democratic Nigeria at the moment. And what he stated, whether he meant it or he didn't mean it, whether it was a script given or not, but this came out from the mouth of the president, that, I mean, you have a chance to go as a people and then vote and demand to have your own state within the state. Now, the Yoruba Referendum Committee has put out a petition, which is almost that in that direction, that it's time for the Yoruba people to actually vote on what they want within Nigeria. Rather than protest, of course, protests have their own usage. Rather than disrupting business activities, rather than possibly destroying properties, which obviously it could create unemployment, it could also create insecurity. What President Buhari is proposing or proposed then is exactly what the Yoruba Referendum Committee is doing now, that we need you to sign now and tell our reps, our political representatives in the Southwest, the governors and the houses of assembly, to pass the bill into law, so that we can then vote on what we want. I know you've explained this over and over, but for the benefit of people that might be listening to this for the first time, or some other people, like we've said as well, that there are times people have to hear things about 2, 3, or 4 times before they take action. And the backdrop of that video about Buhari saying this is being done now. Why should people sign rather than waiting to protest or waiting to appeal or to threaten President Muhammadu Buhari?
Thank you for that. See, the thing is, to sign is to show our commitment to what we are doing. It gives us the ability to say, yes, we are representing ourselves. Like, for example, if we don't come up with the petition and we just have a group, either like Afenifere or any group, and say, okay, this is what we want, it can be very easy to dismiss such a group as, a bunch of people who are dissatisfied, which is the excuse they give because they are not part of the system, they are not part of the government, they are looking for this, they are looking for that. It is very easy to dismiss them like that. But if we have a petition backing it up with all the groups and individuals, everybody being part of it, that petition itself has become the movement, the Yoruba movement. Nobody can come out and say that those who signed the petition are looking for appointment, or they are looking for this, or they are looking for that, because it will be so massive. So it gives us that legitimacy, that validity to say this is what the Yoruba people want. And if we are going to go by what the president says, and assuming that he meant what he said, is a vindication of what we are doing. That let people say this is what we want. Now let's even assume that he didn't even mean it. He just said it for the benefit of the press. Fine. The thing still is that when we band together in a petition like that, what we demand cannot be denied. What we demand cannot be denied. So it's a double advantage that he said it, and let us hope that he means it. Is an advantage in the sense that that is what we have been saying that we should do. If he doesn't mean it and we are doing it, it's also to our advantage, because we are saying this is not a question of which organization do you belong to. Are you in Ilano, Afenifere, or this or that? No. What we are simply saying is this is a Yoruba issue, and we Yoruba are saying this is what we want. And that petition gives us the power and the leverage to make that demand and make it a reality. So we need that leverage, we need that. No, I mean, it's like when Akeredolu said, where did Yoruba reach a consensus? Or nobody will say, who told you that Yoruba want this and Yoruba? Let us have this thing, and that will settle the matter. Even if it is not once and for all, it will settle it for this moment. Just like, okay, Scotland, they had an independence referendum, they failed in 2014. Then they said, we are not stopping there, we are still going forward. And they still move forward. So what we are saying in essence, and don't let us, I will say that we should not discountenance what he said. Because again, I don't expect the president, and I will give you an example, the president of Nigeria to come out and say, oh yeah, if you want to go, everybody can go their own ways. No, but he might be doing things that will lead to that, or lead to what he said. And ours is to, since we didn't wait for him to make that declaration before we started our petition, that means we are not, we will only welcome him that, yes, okay, you are now saying what we want to do, and it's okay for us, it's good for us. So let us now redouble our efforts to make it done, to get it done. That is one. If you look at how the Soviet Union erupted, sort of collapsed. Soviet Union came into being in 1921. They keep saying Nigeria came into being by amalgamation and stuff like that. The Soviet Union formally came into being in 1921 when the Russian Communist Party forced everybody into the thing. So when Gorbachev and everybody had been resisting at different levels. So when Gorbachev came to power, he said, okay, let us restructure, glasnost, perestroika. Let us give some people some of their freedom. Let us relax some of the things that is forcing people together and all that. So they started all that. In the process of starting all that, all the various nations, gained their independence, even though they still have a relationship among themselves. But it was through that process. So what Buhari has said, although it's a statement, it's just a statement. We don't know, like we said, we don't know exactly how he came about that statement, can be likened, not is the same, to what Gorbachev did. That Gorbachev set parameters in place that the Soviet Communist Party cannot be doing so, and so. And each of the communist parties in the various countries started saying, okay, this and this and this and that. And then they began, I think it was Lithuania that started it. And they went their independent ways. So if he's now saying, okay, let people mobilize or organize themselves and for a state within it, okay, we are saying, in fact, it now puts us in that at an advantage, because all those who are saying the Constitution does not do this, and the Constitution does not do that, you cannot do that. But he say, although I'm not saying he's above the Constitution, no, but what we are saying is that we can now put it to him. You said we should do this, and this is what we have done. Oh yeah, come on, what are you going to do about it? It is now, we now push the ball back to him. Now, you now can see that the Constitution is irrelevant. That is 1999 Constitution is irrelevant. We have mobilized ourselves and we have carried out a referendum for that purpose. So you are bound to respect what we have done. Let him now walk back his statement. I didn't mean it. I just meant that if you want Biafra state in Imo State, you can now create a Biafra state from Imo State. Let him now start saying that. We are not going to say that for him. But what we are saying is that, and like you say, who knows? I'm a Christian. And we say God works in miraculous ways or mysterious ways and stuff. We don't even know where our things, we don't know where it has reached. We don't know who it has touched. We don't know how it is working out. All we are doing is we are doing it because we know it is a necessary thing to be done. And if for one reason or the other, things are happening like that, yes, we can say maybe God is blessing our efforts. Fine. Of course, we can even pray to God to say, Buhari has said this, Ọlọ́run má jẹ́ kó padà lẹ́yìn ẹ̀. And stuff like that. I mean, we can do all that. But the point is, he is an opportunity that we, that should encourage us. Let me put it that way. It is not what he said that is starting the process. What he said is just an encouragement for us to push further on the process, because we started it before he said it, and we should be able to continue it after he has said it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I will quickly take us to the petition itself, and that is on .org.
Yes,
change.org. From what I have here, and let me put it at full screen.
We are not seeing it, too. I'm not seeing it, too.
You are not seeing it?
No.
It's full screen now. Are you seeing it at all? It's 8,260.
No, I'm not seeing it. Maybe other viewers may be seeing it, but go ahead.
So we've got 8,260 signatures at the moment. And of course, it's been shared 6,121 times. Also, it's gathered 108,869 views, which is quite massive.
Yes.
And, what is being said here is that at 10,000, when it gets to 10,000, I think one of our viewers has confirmed that they are seeing it live and direct.
Okay.
So we've got so heading at 10,000, the governors and the speakers of the houses of assembly will be alerted again that it's now reached 10,000. That this is what the people are saying about governance, and of course, like you've mentioned, these are part of the things that could be done to resolve the insecurity in our land, since the federal security apparatuses have either been compromised or overwhelmed, or a combination of both.
Yeah.
So Now, this is where you are. What can people do? Yes, we know people can sign, but
Yes.
in what ways, again, can people assist in pushing this forward? And how urgent is this?
In fact, with the Igangan case now, it makes it more, if there's a word like that, more than urgent. If there's an English word like that, it is more than urgent exercise that we have to do now. Of course, people have to get onto the site to sign. How to do that include sharing the link, and not just sharing it, but explaining the necessity or the urgency of it. That, oh yeah, don't happen. Let's work on it. Two, we are, like I mentioned before, we are going to be passing out flyers in Yoruba, in our homeland, imploring people to, and joining them to sign and do that. And we are going to start a newsletter to that effect, where we will be explaining things to people and stuff. So and when we do that, the flyers are also online. I believe it can be, I'm not sure whether it can be put on the change.org side of stuff, but you can also share the flyers. So the point is, at every opportunity that we have, let us make it the main thing that will be on top. It's very unfortunate. We have several Odua media platforms, video, YouTube, Facebook, and all the rest of it. Some of them have been helpful in promoting it on their platforms. Some are not even talking about it. But if we can get to the point where it is the only thing we are talking about, and that is the point, that is a critical point. If we can get to the point where it is the only thing that we want to achieve, that no, we must have this thing, the political fallout can be surprising. Like I said, if every single Yoruba platform or outlet starts talking about that referendum, Yoruba referendum, pass it into law, the president says state within it, let us mobilize him. He will now have to come and explain what he means by it. And by doing that, we are taking the battle directly to the terrorists. People may not see the direct connection, but when you respond in a political manner to acts of terrorism, they will have to find a political way to respond. And yes. So the thing now is that the soldiers, the terrorist soldiers that carried out the Igangan attack. Can you hear me now, please?
We're hearing you, sir.
Okay.
We're hearing you.
The soldiers, the foot soldiers that carried out the attack on Igangan may not respond politically, but their political headquarters, wherever it is, whether it is in ISWAP or in Aso Rock, they will have to respond. And that is what we need, to get their political headquarters to realize that they are now dealing with more than just a knee-jerk resistance. They are dealing with a sophisticated resistance. So there are so many ways that we can push it, and we thank God that we reached the stage where we reached, and it involves a lot of all of us coming together to. So if someone has access to Chief Afe Babalola, for example, let him contact Chief Afe Babalola and say, look, this is what is going on. What do you see to it? Hopefully, if Chief Afe Babalola accepts it, just by saying, oh yeah, let's do this thing, there are many people that will sign the petition just on his say so, because they respect him and they know that is not frivolous or flippant in whatever he does. So if we can get as many people like that, and there are many people like that in Yoruba land who can also come on board and say, yeah, this is how to go. And that is where also again Afenifere also comes in, that with what Chief Adebanjo said, which is not different from what we have been saying, the only thing left is that Chief Adebanjo did not go as to how to achieve those things, which is simply what we have done with the referendum. So if people like Chief Adebanjo and all the rest can endorse it and say, yes, let us go for it, aside from his person, him as a person, who is also respected and the father in Yoruba land, I mean, what can even call him the father in Yoruba land, his organization and stuff can influence a lot of people to put the signature in. And when the governors and the state legislators are seeing these things, they know it is no longer an electoral partisan thing. It has become a Yoruba national thing, no longer a Yoruba partisan thing. So nobody will say, because I don't like Tinubu's face, I'm not going to sign it. Because I don't like Bode George. Bode George is this, I don't sign it. Or Oshoko Mole, what's his name again? Fayoshe. Or Fayoshe is this and that. No, nobody is talking about that. So, but what we are now saying is a Yoruba national thing, regardless of what we think about Fayoshe or Tinubu or Bode George, that they themselves will not be able to withstand it. And like I said, even their own political opponents are watching what they are capable of or what is likely to happen in Yoruba land. That is the only way they can negotiate with each other. So if we are able to pull the rug off their feet, they have nothing to negotiate with. And now we have Buhari behind us. Buhari is saying, hey, we can organize to have a state with them. Oh yeah, now let us go for it. So I mean,
yes, sir. Thank you very much. Yes, I think you've covered that. We've put the link in the comment box. People should just connect with that link and then they should sign it and also share it to others so that others can sign as well. And like Mr. Odedeyi just mentioned, this is not about an individual. So it's not Tinubu matter or Aregbesola or Seyi Makinde, etc., etc. This is about Yoruba liberation, and obviously doing it the way it should be done, so that we could achieve what we want to achieve. I mean, we could see what is happening at Igangan at the moment. Obviously, we have to bring that up just to also be able to see the political and security backlash that could come from there. And of course, like many people have suggested, that Chief Sunday Igboho should not get involved at the moment, because it would seem that the plan is to draw him out to get involved in that. Then other things will happen. But we also hope that kings and the elders will not just sit back and allow this to go. I'm sort of unwilling to share the gory photos and pictures that was shared this morning, including videos. It was quite so bad, and I believe very much, and I believe many people will agree with me, that such things should not happen, and then we go back and just continue as if everything is okay. We've identified, although Governor Seyi Makinde did say that it's on top of the situation, but we know that it's not, because one is limited on what he could do constitutionally, because of because he has no control over the law enforcement agency in Nigeria, as well as not having control also over the judiciary, the Southwest. We don't have that control. But at the same time, there are a few things that could be done in pushing. I mean, as a governor, he might be able to push the security agencies around the states and of course also to encourage more participation of the Amatekun, or even to use some other security deterrents if there are like drones or other things which we might not want to mention publicly. There are some other things that could actually be done, and it will left for the federal government to fashion out how to deal with it. So thank you very much for your time on the program. Alàgbà Femi Odedeyi. We will be having you in another 2 weeks, and we're hoping that by that time the petition should have reached 10,000.
At least 10,000. Yeah.
Yes, so that at least we'll be able to have
make
to governors and of course members of the state houses of assembly. We're also asking the people to also help to share. I mean, the people, I know that it's been shared to some political and community leaders in Nigeria, in Yoruba land, so to say, but please, let's continue to spread that. The posters is on Yoruba Referendum Committee Facebook page. Just type in Yoruba Referendum Committee and you will get right to the page. You can print out the poster. You can print it as a leaflet. You can share it through your phone, share it in your WhatsApp group. Let's sign this. Like Mr. Odedeyi said, we have to prefer a political solution to the current challenges in Nigeria generally, but obviously for the areas where we have very, very deep interest. And it's not that we're leaving others behind, but it's coming to the realization that we need to save ourselves first. Just like free education was done then by the government of Chief Femi Awolowo, while the other regions were claiming that it's impossible. But it went ahead and it was done. And the others, obviously, the ones that will copy a bit and the others that will benefit as well. So we believe that moving forward, wait for others to sort out their security before we take a decisive step to deal with the security in Yoruba land. So please sign the petition. Once again, that is on change.org. Find that, and it's entitled Petition for Yoruba Referendum, Be a Part of History. It's clearly there. Just look for it, or just click on that link in the comment box, and then you will have it. So sign it, spread it, and we believe, we pray, and I believe we are very, very religious in both in Nigeria generally and of course in Yoruba land as well. But then with our prayers also come our responsibilities, and that is what we are asking us to take up, that responsibilities of taking a step towards our own deliverance. So until we see you again, I'll be back next week. But before I let Mr. Odedeyi, before I let him go, there's always a 2 minutes blank check for you, sir, to speak with the people, and of course, also to take that time also to commiserate with the people of Igangan, Ibarapa, and the Oyo State government.
Yeah, thank you very much. Starting off with the Igangan, it's very unfortunate that, of course, those of us who are sort of distant from the place, we are not physically there, so we can only receive or go by the reports. And of course, one commiserates with those who have lost their lives and their properties, especially when it is not necessary. This is not a natural disaster. like a hurricane or something like that. This is a deliberate act of annihilation, which can be prevented, which ought to have been prevented, but which was not prevented, and which, from historical evidence, has shown that the Nigerian government cannot prevent it if it is not deliberately aiding it. So, having said that, I would like to let our people know that sometimes the consequences of what we do or what we don't do can be very devastating. It is very unfortunate that this thing has to bring some lessons to us. This thing, some of us, quite a lot of people have been saying so over a period of time, but their voices were drowned out by those who are saying kíṣu tó jiná, kí àjàyàngbé ajá dùn, á láti ṣe nǹkan kan and all that. So we must do something immediately. And yet all along, nothing was done. Now, we can say, yes, the governor can find an excuse by saying, I'm not in control of this and that. And they have been using that excuse. And we seem to be allowing them to get away with that excuse by saying they cannot do it because they don't have control over it. Yes, they don't have control. So, but the question is, what are we doing to get that control or to assert our own control on the governors and on the situation? You have to understand the situation and the specifics of the situation before you can impose your will on it. So that's why we are advising now that those who, Sunday Igboho should not fall into the trap of that they are setting, not only for him, but for Yoruba land in general, because it's any casual look at history of struggles will show that this is clearly an attempt to draw us into some kind of ethnic retaliation, and then the opportunity that they are waiting for to clamp down and all that and all the rest will follow. So what I'm simply saying is, let us reflect on our strategies. Let us see the political context of the battle that we are faced with. It is when we see that we'll be able to address these things. We may not be able to know, especially even once we are able to address the political context, these things may not even happen to us in the sudden manner that it has happened, because we have our own ways of addressing these things in whatever manner it might come. But the first thing is to have that thing. So, but what has happened now has also exposed the political underbelly of the Nigerian state and the opposition against it, that these people can strike anytime they want to strike, and nothing will be done about it. So whether there will be elections in Yoruba land in 2023 or not is irrelevant at this point. And it has been irrelevant all along. It's just that people are making a thing out of it. The systematic pursuit of political liberation demands a strategic pathway towards achieving it. Not to sound like a broken record, but what I'm saying is, once we get this referendum petition going, the advantage, it has resolved the question of whether the governor has authority or not. Because if the governor refuses to follow us, we have already established our own ability to do our own law enforcement in a legal, legitimate manner that nobody can question. So I believe you get what I'm saying. And don't also forget that we are also operating within an international community environment where you have all kinds of international merchants of death, weapons producers, smugglers, buyers and sellers, who can be doing all kinds of stuff. So we have to avoid falling into their hands. Otherwise, we will just be perpetually running over each other and killing ourselves. So that's why I call for a strategic retreat, a sober reflection, and an understanding that even those of us who are calling for this strategic retreat are not necessarily anti-Yoruba or this or that they like to do. And before you open your mouth to say anything, they will start cursing you and cursing you out. So, and that is not going to even solve the problem. So let us see it for what it is. That when you are, let me give a quick example. A long time ago, that was in 1954, when France was still trying to dominate Vietnam. There was a battle they called the Dien Phu in Vietnam, where the French forces, the Vietnamese forces, the Vietnamese Communist forces defeated the French. The defeat was not a military defeat. It was a political defeat in Vietnam that had military reverberations in France. So France had to withdraw. And the general responsible was General Giap. He wrote about it and all the rest of it. So everything is not about military conflict. Every military conflict has a political strategic objective. Once you address that political strategic objective, you will defeat the physical military. They say, even in conventional warfare, that you win or lose the war before you fire the first shot or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are things that we are not looking at. And I want to implore our people to start looking at these things. That, like I said, I'm a Christian. And this is not to disparage anybody, just to state my own belief. The Bible that I follow says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and because they refuse knowledge, this and this and this and this and this will happen to them. So don't let us refuse knowledge, so that we are not destroyed by lack of knowledge. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your time today. And like I said, we will be having Mr. Femi Odedeyi back again in another 2 weeks. So please do join us then. And of course, I'll be right back here next Saturday at 3 p.m. with some other programs that we have. Please note that time, 3 p.m. on Saturdays, and of course, 5:45 on Sundays. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for those who have listened and continue to listen. And I hope we'll be able to influence each other. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, sir.
Wọ́n bá wá ní bàbúbà ẹ̀fọ́ wọn lẹ́rán ẹ̀sìn kúrò. Àbòjì ìgbà tí Fúlàní bá gbẹ̀mí gbogbo lé tán. Ọjọ́ ọ̀la wá sójú ìgbà tí wọ́n bá fi ìtàn.
Right. Thank you very much, all our viewers. Thanks for joining us today. That is Mr. Femi Odedeyi from Yoruba Referendum Committee. Like I've said, he will be back here in another 2 weeks. So please join him every 2 weeks as we'll be dealing with issues affecting Nigeria, not just Nigerians at home, but of course, obviously, you know by now, anything that affects Nigerians at home also affects those of us in the diaspora. My name is Samuel Oludare Yerokun, and I am based here in Scotland. It's OY Media Scotland, and of course, I will be seeing you next time on Saturday when we come up with our other program. So please do stay tuned to us, and do have a wonderful and gracious week ahead. Thank you.
èmi ò lọ́nà méjì láyé tó dorin lọ orin ṣá ni iṣẹ́ mi ò tó dá mi lójú ẹ pè wá síbi ayẹyẹ ìyẹn nígbàkúgbà yẹjẹ méjì sá pléyà o oṣù ọjọ́ ọlá mi mẹ́tì ló ń pèdè ẹ̀mújó akọrin bí ẹni jẹ̀kọ́ o ìjòyà ọlá mi mẹ́tì ló ń pèdè ẹ̀mújó akọrin bí ẹni jẹ̀kọ́ ìjòyà.
ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ bọ̀bọ̀ alóyin lòun àpèdè má pè tànà ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lóde ìbànújẹ́ èèwọ̀ òrìṣà ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ́ba ń jó gbogbo wa ló mọ̀ yẹ ká mú pátì dùn ṣebí tiwa ni ara ò ní tán nílé alára láíláí ilé mo borin ilé mo bálù àtàndá ti ṣẹ́kọ̀ náà ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń fẹ́ wa ẹ̀ máa ṣe gan-an. Kí la fi sàn jàwọ́ tí kú ti pa. Ìwọ ló ṣàbò àlàáfíà wa. Ìwọ lámọ̀ tó gbà wá lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀mú. Ẹ kọrí ìyìn sọ́ba olóore wa. Hallelujah, ògo ni fún Bàbá, ká fi jó ìlú ní Ọlọ́run wa. Alààyè ni yóò ní ọ̀pọ̀ tiẹ̀. Hallelujah, ògo ni fún Bàbá. Ohùn wa kò tó láti parun. Ẹnu wa kò gbòòrò tó fún ọpẹ́. Bàbá lẹ́gbẹ̀rún àwọn nìkọ̀ọ̀kan. Wọ́n kéré jù láti gbọ́ lára ẹ̀gbà o. Hallelujah, ògo ni fún Bàbá. Àfijó ìlú ní Ọlọ́run wa. Alààyè ni yóò ní ọ̀pọ̀.